welcome back to Beauty Bee and to the 1-year update for my project 100 Uses. I started this project back in August of 2020, which seems like half a lifetime, and 3 days ago at exactly the same time, which is kind of impressive actually. And I started this project in order to keep track of my usage on my color cosmetics, both to help push me towards really getting good heavy use out of several items, but also to make sure that I wasn't just completely ignoring some items. And we will talk a little bit at the end of this video, just reflect a little bit on the past year and how I think that this project has gone for me. But before we do that, I wanted to do the usual update and just talk about the things that I have gotten to 20, 50, or 100 uses. Those are the goalposts that I have set for myself. And I think we are going to start today with lips. And actually the product that I wanted to start with, I forgot to grab, so 1 second. I actually have 3 different lip products that I have gotten to my 20 use mark, but the one that I want to start with is this Beauty for Real gloss. This is in the shade Nudist, and as one would expect from the name, it is a nude lip gloss. I have made quite good progress on this with 20 uses. I think you can see, although I'm not 100% sure, but I'm at a little bit less than half. I did end up having to take the stopper out of this. It's not because I had actually made so much progress on this lip gloss. It was just the stopper was, I think the opening was a little bit too small for this product or something, but in any case, when I was trying to apply this, I felt like I was getting almost no product out. I felt like I had to dip in like 4 times to coat my lips, which is ridiculous. So it's kind of goopy and applies a little bit too much now that the stopper is gone, but oh well. You know, we can't always have the Goldilocks baby bear perfect midpoint in things, and I would rather get a little bit too much than just sit there for what feels like forever, but is probably like 25 seconds applying my lip gloss. Also, this video is not about giving many reviews. This video is about how I used my products, and I used this 12 times in the past month to get me to exactly 20 uses. Next up is another product that I've gotten to actually just a hair over 20 uses. This is my Bite Añejo Power Move Creamy Matte Lip Crayon. And there's very little of this left. I just lost the cap under my chair, so I'm gonna have to go find that. But there's how much I have left. I actually kind of wondered if this was going to make it to 20 uses. It did. I'm at 21. I've used it 4 times in the past month. And hopefully this will not be in the next update because I've really been enjoying this color. Not enough that I think I would repurchase it, but I just think it's been a fun, kind of interesting color. I don't know that it's super flattering, but it is something that I enjoy wearing, and it would be really cool to have this finished off. I realized pretty early on in this project that 100 uses for a lipstick or a lip gloss likely wasn't a super realistic goal. There simply aren't 100 uses in a lot of, especially lip glosses, but to some extent lipsticks as well. So some products I have started counting as duos or trios as I've been going along. Anytime that I use any one of these 3 Pat McGrath Labs mini lipsticks, I just count under my Pat McGrath Labs lip trio category, and I used one of these lipsticks 5 times in the past month for a total of 23 uses. I purchased this around my birthday, so I've had these for about 4 months, and I think I'm getting really good use out of them. I think a little bit more often than once a week, which I think is amazing. But The lip product that I have the most exciting progress on this month is a lip gloss. This is a NYX Butter Gloss. This is in the shade Tiramisu. And I used this 10 times in the past month for a total of 53 uses since August of 2020. And I mean, I think that I talked about this in the very last video, but I'm starting to be able to see some windowing in here, and the windowing hasn't gone away. It's been, I think, 4 days since I filmed that last video. I might actually be getting close on this item, which would be super, super exciting. Okay, let's move on to eyeshadow next. Eyeshadow is a really, really good category this month. I had quite a few shadows that were really close to various goals last month. I don't think that I actually had any. No, I'm wrong. I had a couple of eyeshadow products that I hit benchmarks on last month, but I had a lot that were hanging out at, 47 uses when my benchmark is 50. I had 2 items sitting at 96 or 97 uses out of 100 at my last update. And spoiler alert, you will be hearing about them today. But let's start with the things that I got to 20 uses or more. And we're going to start out with another thing that I count just as one product, even though they're in 2 separate compacts. And these are my Kiko Duos. I have this taupe one, as well as this white and yellow one. I bought these, well, at least I received these in June. I think I might have bought them in May, but no big deal either way. And I am currently sitting at 23 uses on these, which is fantastic. I've used them 12 times in the past month, which I think that's some great progress. I've definitely used this white and yellow one more than the taupe one because I like using this yellow shade as a highlight. And I've actually been reaching for this white as an inner corner shade once in a while. I don't think I used it today. No, I didn't. I don't think I have any inner corner shade on today. So I guess this is my chance to show what it looks like. Just tapping on a little bit of that. I'm actually swirling a little bit of the yellow in. It's really pretty. I think that this is a gorgeous, gorgeous duo. I think this is a pretty duo, and I've definitely been getting a little bit more use out of it the past month than I had the previous one. I am starting to realize that this is a really good outer corner shade for me, and that this, while I would prefer generally to wear it over another shade, does make this really pretty, soft, subtle topper. It's a great look, especially for work, and I think that when I eventually get to go back into the office, that I will find myself reaching for this shade quite a bit. Some more eyeshadow that I've gotten to a major goal is my e.l.f. Bite Size Quad in Very Bad. I've had this since the very beginning of this project. I am currently at 22 uses. I used it 6 times in the past month, which is fantastic because I put this in my Shop My Stash this month, and that means that I am actually using my Shop My Stash products. Now, this quad and I have a complicated history. This is my second e.l.f. Very Bad quad. The first one had a chunk of metal in it, so I contacted e.l.f. They sent me a new one, and everything is good. I'll link that video if you're interested, but that's the whole story. I guess there's really no reason to check out the video, but I have used this color scheme quite a bit more than that 22 number, and the amount of use you actually see on this palette suggests. yeah, just once I got the new palette, I felt like my interest in it largely disappeared, and I'm not quite sure why that happened. We have 3 different 50 use products to talk about, which I think is probably a record on this channel. But the first one we have to talk about are my Colourpop singles. Now, clearly, these are not all Colourpop singles. I didn't actually bother to rearrange my palettes for this video, but 3 of these shades are from Colourpop. This yellow is Tiki, this corally orange is Imperial, and this peach shade is Painted Lady. And these are probably among the 3 that I use most often. I also have gotten quite a bit of use out of Glass Bowl and On a Whimsy, and now I'm realizing that I have like 6 or 7 shades and I've named 5 of them. So I really, really do like these Colourpop singles. I've enjoyed them so much, and I've had a really good time mixing them up, playing with them along with other shades from my singles collection, with other palettes that I have. They just add a lot of fun to my collection, and I'm glad that I'm getting good, consistent use out of these. I have used one of my singles 8 times in the past month for a total of 52 uses. Next up, we have my Profusion Glam palette. I had a little bit of a love affair with this palette over winter. I think I found this right around Thanksgiving time in Walgreens on clearance for like $5 or $6. And for like 2 months after that, I felt like I dipped into one of these shades almost every day. Probably 3 or 4 times a week I would use at least one of these shades. And then once I moved, I just kind of lost interest for no real reason. But I used this 4 times in the past month for a total of 52 uses. This is a really, really pretty palette. I think the color scheme on this is gorgeous. I mean, we were talking about sort of work shades earlier, and this pink and this almost greenish champagne shade are so easy to wear for every day. Either of these looks great as a one and done shadow look. If you want to bump it up to 2 shadows, you have a really nice choice of 2 different matte browns to put in your crease. I tend to use a mixture of the 2, but I could also just use this lighter one to get something a little more subtle, use the deeper one by itself to go a hair more dramatic, and then you have really these 4 shades. I've used all of them as liners at different points, and they all work really well for that purpose. This is such a nice little palette. I love that it has the big mirror that I've been attempting not to blind you with, and that it actually sits open. This was such a good buy. I'm so happy with it. And I don't think this is still available. I assume it's not, since I found it on clearance 9 months ago. But if you happen to see this around, I would suggest potentially giving it a go if you are in the market for some neutral eyeshadows. Okay, if I don't want this video to be like 50 minutes long, I need to get going. The next product that I've gotten to 50 uses used to be a palette. This used to be a Wet n Wild quad in the shade Petalette. I'll see if I can't input a picture. This was their pinky purple quad, and I really enjoyed using this as much as a face palette as an eye palette. Unfortunately, I have lost both the white shade and the lighter pink shade in transit. They both died in the move. Actually, I think one of them might have died before that. By died, I mean broke. I didn't like finish them or anything, but The one shade that I have left is, I don't know why I paused as I was thinking of a name. None of these shades have names. I have quite a bit of pan in this, as you can probably tell. I use this sort of equally as eyeshadow and as blush. Probably more recently, I've been using it mostly as a blush. I really adore this shade. I think it's beautiful, and I've used it 5 times in the past month to get me up to 51 uses. And now for the moment that we all, or at least I get to speak for all of us in this video, have been waiting for, and the products that I have hit 100 uses on this month. The first is my Maybelline City Mini Palette in Matte About Town. This has been actually used far more than 100 times. It's been used 100 times since I started this project. I'd owned it for 2 or 3 years before that, and actually had pan in 3 of these shades, I think. I think I had pan in this brown, as well as, well, these both used to be browns. There's a little bit left you can see in this one. I really enjoy this palette. A lot of my use recently on it has been on this lighter matte brown shade. I've been using it in my eyebrows quite often. I'm not wearing it today, but really I've gotten good use out of the majority of this palette. The one exception would be this dark brown. This just isn't a color that I'm super into. I don't love this super chocolatey brown. It's just not a color that I find myself using a whole lot, but I really like the quality of this palette. The mattes are really soft and really blendable, and I'm just happy that I'm getting so much good use out of it. This is something that I can definitely see myself panning in the future, and really enjoying that process. And then we have another product that I've gotten up to 100 uses, and I find this one more exciting than the last one because there isn't a shade in here that I guess there are shades in here that I could use as face products, but I use these only as eyeshadows first. And additionally, I got this almost exactly the same time as I started this project. So this really is within a couple uses of having exactly 100 uses. And I think that is interesting to see just how little product you can use up in 100 uses. I mean, I'm sure that if I was just using this palette for each of those 100 uses, if I wasn't dipping into other shades, mixing and matching, that I could have a lot more progress on this. But I mean, let's take a look. I mean, these 3 shades are disturbed somewhat on the surface, but I mean, there's probably almost exactly as much product in there as I started with. This gray and this violet shade have a little bit more use, but I couldn't even say there's really a dip in these. Maybe there's a tiny, tiny dip going on in the violet, but not a ton of use. I think I'm actually pretty close to hitting pan on this ash shade. This is definitely my favorite color in the palette. It's certainly the one I use most often. And I think it's probably the shade that when I do use it, I use the most of, because I will quite often wear this as a one shadow look, or at least wear it all over the lid and often into the crease as well. But yeah, if you had asked me last August, I don't think that I would have told you that I thought I could get to 100 uses on this, or really pretty much any palette, without hitting at least a little bit of pan, but I would have been incorrect. Really quickly, we're going to go through the system that's been working for me in keeping track of my usage. Now, I have this clipboard that I track all of my projects with. This first page is my Pan those eyeshadows, and then underneath I have 2 pages that are devoted to Project 100 uses, and I just have all of my lip products on this page written out. I will redo this sheet every 2 or 3 months or so. I film on my cell phone, which is like the cheapest model that, well, I guess it's T-Mobile now, right? That Sprint / T-Mobile will let you get. So I'm sure that that did not show up, but I will see if I can't input a nice picture just to show you what the sheet looks like. I think you can tell that I keep sort of the last count in parentheses next to each product, and then just continue making my tallies as I go. I have one other sheet. Eyeshadow is on top, and then face products, and I think you can tell it does get pretty messy after a little while. I am pretty close to due for redoing my sheet, so maybe I'll do that tonight. Don't know if it's going to be editing night or rewriting a sheet night. We'll have to figure that out. That system works really pretty well for me. Every day I just make tallies after I do my makeup. It takes me maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute tops. It's really very quick on an everyday basis. Then once a month, as I'm getting ready to film this video, I will go into my Excel workbook and fill in my counts for the month. I took some screenshots of my workbook earlier that I'm hopefully showing right now. I think you can tell there is some color coding going on. I mark the 20 uses with peach, the 50 use mark with green, and purple is my favorite color. So the 100 use mark I've been marking with this sort of light blue violet that is so pretty to me. I have separate sheets set up for eyes, lips, and cheeks, which is part of why I go through the categories separately each month. And let's take a look at the far left. I categorize this by brand, and then I also will mark down the shade name and the time that I acquired it, if I purchased or otherwise received it, either in PR or as a hand-me-down, or I feel like those are really the 2 options. That will go in the acquired category, and then I have the number of uses that I've reached at each of the updates. And now we get to the reflection that I promised earlier. Overall, I think that this project has been really good for me. There are definitely products in my collection that I had a little bit of a honeymoon period with. I mean, I think that this, as well as my other City Mini palette, is a great example. When I first got this in 2017, I used it all the time. And then it kind of sat in a drawer for probably about 1.5 years. It would come out every once in a while, but I mean, there were probably 6-7 month stretches where I didn't use this. And now I realize that I'm not using a product after just a month or 2. And it's not that I ever disliked this product. It's always been nice. I think it was actually slightly better quality when I first got it, but it's still really quite a nice little palette. But I just wouldn't think to use it. Another really good effect of this project is that it gets me to actually use my nicer makeup. It is so easy for me to say, oh, I love this color. Do I love this color? Yes, I do, very much. And it's lovely, and it's from Pat McGrath. It's not something that I would repurchase, so let's save this for special occasions. I mean, I've probably used this 12 times or something, and I'm about halfway, maybe a little over halfway through the little bullets. Realistically, do I have 12 special occasions to wear this lipstick to in a year? Let's say that I want to work through my lipsticks about every 2 years, which I think seems pretty reasonable. I mean, I might have 12. Do I have 36? Absolutely not. And I do want to actually use these items. I paid for them. It would be really, really sad if they just sat in a drawer and went bad on me. The tracking my usage has really helped me to remember to use these instead of subconsciously hoarding them for those special occasions. I know if I'm falling into that trap because it becomes very obvious through my spreadsheet if I haven't used these for a couple months. And before I drop these again, let's start wrapping this video up. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've been enjoying this project. If you haven't caught some of the other updates and would like to check them out, I will of course have my playlist linked up in the cards. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed this video. I'm intending to continue on with this project. I don't think I will probably do this forever on my channel, but I think that at least another 6 months would be good. Anyway, thanks again, and I really hope that I will see you in the next video. Bye!